Hey, before we dive in, a quick note. While Lori is a licensed therapist, this podcast is not a substitute for professional therapy or medical advice. If you need support, please reach out to a qualified professional, or if you're in crisis, dial 988. Things get a little heavy today. We're talking about grief on today's episode of Mind Out Loud. Sit back and listen to what it sounds like to be in a real therapy session talking grief. Today is one of those days, Lori, where I'll be honest, I don't want to do this because I know what's coming. I know I'm going to be uncomfortable, but here I am. I've made my bed. Now I must sleep in it. But give it, quick tip before we get into the meat here today, a quick tip for somebody that's listening who doesn't want to go to therapy today, who signed up and just isn't feeling it. What do? Should you push through that feeling and just go do it because it'll make you feel better? Or if you're just not feeling it, you just don't do it. What do you do in that situation?
Of course, that depends with every individual, but I am so grateful when my clients push through that and come, because that pattern, Nick, typically shows up in their lives in some way, shape, or form that doesn't really help them get what they're looking for in the long run. So yes, I say push through it when you can, because there typically lies some gold nugget that we want to uncover that maybe on a subconscious level you're turning away from.
Okay. Well, I'm here. Here we go.
Right.
And I know there's some EMDR on the docket for me today. Mm-hmm. Remind everybody what that is.
Yes. And I also want to let our audience know that if you are afraid to come to therapy, you do not have to do what we're going to do today. Nick asked me to do this to him. I'm not his therapist, but he wants to, and we got the clearance. He wants to be put in an uncomfortable position. That's what he asked. But this is a pretty deep form of therapy. So you do not have to imagine, oh my gosh, well, I was fearful of going to therapy before. Now I'm never going.
Yeah, that's a good point. These are certain techniques that some therapists use to work through emotions, and there's certainly things that I have identified to Lori that have given me cause for pause and caution in my life, I guess. And so we're going to see if we can work through that, and I want people to see what it looks like.
Right.
I'm already looking for things to fidget with right now.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
This is why we spent so much time in resourcing, which means ways in which we calm the client down. So there are 8 phases of EMDR, and we have already done a few. There's phase 1 is just history gathering, establishing rapport, making sure that the client feels comfortable and safe with you and wants to do this. So then we go into 2, which is explaining EMDR, setting the expectations, and then we address any client concerns or questions. So do you have any more, or is this where you want me to explain a little bit about what EMDR is?
Yeah, let's. I think it's time to get into it. I feel like I've
just
been
go into it.
Yeah, because I feel like I've been stalling the last couple of episodes, and I guess I'm ready. So let's go for it. I kind of just want to say F it and let's go.
All right. Well, then I'm going to tell you what target we're going to work on today.
Okay.
Normally, I would do this as a collaboration with my client and myself, and we typically go after the first and the worst in EMDR, but we don't have time to do that. All of these targets, no. We'll lose our audience. So the one we're going to work on, Nick, is what you told me last time, is about watching your mom's partner go through that illness.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I don't remember if that was on,
we didn't talk about it.
Okay, so let me. Yeah. So here's what Lori's talking about. And when she says targets, these are things that we've identified in my past that were emotionally distressful for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it could be far in the past, it could be more recent. This particular target that she's explaining, her and I had talked about off camera, and it's involves my mom and her partner. She had a partner for a long time who developed colon cancer. And if anybody's had some kind of cancer in their life or dealt with it with a family member, it is an ugly process.
Yeah.
It is not fun. My mom was his primary caregiver, and she really, really went through it with him. Really, it was tough. And so the thing that really impacted me was the day where we were really coming down to the end of it all. Fred was a proud guy, big, tall guy, 6'4", 6'5", and just a big, hardworking guy all his life. Had a number of different businesses that he had built, but always worked with his hands. And through his illness, he was at home and really deteriorating. And so when the time came for hospice, I was there. His kids live in Texas. They don't live in Arizona. So I, along with my mom, took him. I got him into the wheelchair, and he could barely move. Got him into the wheelchair, took him in, put him in the car, and drove him to hospice. And I put him in the wheelchair and wheeled him into hospice. And it felt like I don't know how to say this kindly, because it's nothing against him. It just felt like I was taking a man to die. I felt like I was disposing of a human being. I felt like I was, like this was it. I knew it was it. I was wondering how much he was aware. He was pretty, in and out of it. And I just wondered, how much is this man comprehending about the moment that is happening right now? How much is he comprehending the finality of this moment? And it just came crashing down. I held it together most of the day. My wife was out of town, unfortunately. So when I came home, I just lost my shit, because I just felt like I was taking out the trash.
Yep.
And I know that wasn't the case. He lived for a week and then passed, but fuck me, that was a hard thing to do. And it was sad. And so that's what we're going to work through today, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Next I go to, what is the subsequent units of distress scale? It's just a fancy way of saying, when you put yourself in that place, how distressing is that? So how upsetting is that on a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being the highest?
At the time or now? I know that's a qualifier.
That's actually a question a lot of people ask. We want to go after that moment, because it shows up in ways that we are unaware, or it can, in the present. So in that moment, how upsetting was that?
In that moment, it was, I would say that's a 5 or a 6. It was up there.
Yeah.
Because it just puts, I'm always, I talk about this time frame thing, this body clock that I seem to have. And for me, that was just the end right in my face.
Yeah.
And so it really put so much into perspective, and it was heartbreaking for myself and for my mom. And, to see her going through the distress, it was up there. It was a 6 for sure.
Yeah, I would argue that that's not my place. Okay. And these are the things that we don't talk about much, because it is traumatizing. And for those who are listening, EMDR is not long and drawn out. No, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and an end. So it's one of the most intensive forms of therapy out there. It's trauma informed. It changes the brain chemistry, but it's like going in there and, cleaning out the air ducts. We don't see it. We don't know all that crap is in there, but it affects the way that the quality of the air we breathe. So we're going in there and getting out these memories that hurt so badly, that can be so overwhelming that the system doesn't know how to process it in a way that allows us to, we're not forgetting any of the knowledge. We're just losing some of the negative reactivity around it. Okay, Nick, so I'm going to read this back to you, and then you're going to tell me where you feel it in your body. And there's a reason for this, but right now, just go along with me. So you're in that moment, you're wheeling Fred out, you're doing your best to keep it together and be helpful. Inside, it's brutal. Then you come home and it all hits you.
Yeah.
Where do you feel that in your body?
It's in my chest right now. My legs are wagging and wiggling. Pretty sweaty at the moment. But it's that pressure in my chest.
Okay.
Almost like that anxiety feeling.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Thank you. It's important to recognize that, and I'll explain more later. What is the negative cognition, the negative thought, belief?
That I didn't do enough, because I saw how bad he was at that moment, and I thought to myself, how much have I missed? How much effort did my mom have to go through? How much pain was my mom in prior, to the lead up of this? There's some guilt because, am I answering this right?
Yes, exactly right.
There's some guilt because I wonder, I didn't want to deal with him having cancer.
No, right.
And when I say that, I mean, like, I didn't want her to have to deal with it. I didn't want this to be her life. It wasn't fair to him, to her. And I just, I knew my mom was struggling with how much his care was taking. And I don't feel like I maybe had done enough for her. And so, yeah.
Good job, Nick. You're doing great. See, these are the feelings. Just because we have them, these feelings and thoughts, it doesn't mean we want them. And it doesn't, because we don't want them and we are maybe a little embarrassed or whatever the case may be, guess what? We don't talk about them. And then we shove them way down. I'm not saying that this form of therapy is right for everyone. It doesn't have to be. That's part of the exploration with your therapist. But when we are, especially when we're verbal processors, we need to talk about it to get it up and out, and then replace with something that helps us alleviate it using the bilateral stimulation with EMDR. But just do a check-in with me, because it's important for me to make sure that the client to whom this is new doesn't become super flooded with too many emotions that they're just kind of shut down or detached from their body, stuff like that.
I don't want to derail your process here, because I want to keep pushing through it. But my question is, that night, that afternoon when I got home and I just fell to pieces, I was just crying my eyes out and sobbing like crazy to my wife on the phone. Isn't that getting it out? Isn't that processing it? Isn't that working through it? And then, the feelings of grief over the next couple of days and weeks, isn't that processing it, talking with her? Like, I guess I don't understand.
Well, you're absolutely right, Nick. So that is part of processing it. One of the reasons that we're doing this is to find out if any of these, I didn't do enough, I should have been there more for my mom, guilty, I was angry, or I don't know if you use that word, that I didn't want my mom to have to choose this and help him through it. That makes sense. I hear that a lot. We're just examining and exploring to see if this is something that shows up today.
Got it. Okay.
And if it doesn't, I will not over pathologize anybody. I will never do that. But you're right. But there are a lot of men, Nick, who can't do what you just did, who can't do what you did with your wife. Does that make sense? They can't. They want to, but they don't know how, or they're considered weak, or they have all their own messages why they won't go there. And so then what do? It's typically maladaptive behaviors or substances that get in the way of daily healthy functioning.
That makes sense. Okay.
And by the way, this is the process, Nick. This is why I picked only one target, because everyone does have questions along the way.
Okay.
Yeah. So stop me every time.
Okay. All right.
But are you doing okay? I'm just checking in with you. And just so our audience knows, Nick is well adjusted. He has a huge support system outside of here, and he he is strong enough to do this, or we wouldn't be going here. Okay. So let's see. Is there anything else you want to tell me about that night? Like I want you to start trusting your gut instead of thinking, oh, I got to get through this because we only have 50 minutes. This is part of it. I left time for this.
Sure. No, I think I've got it out. It really is, honestly, out of all of it, there's just that, for whatever reason, it's that one singular moment of getting him out of the car and into the wheelchair to go into hospice that just fucks me up every time when I think about it.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that I just can't get out of my head. Even like, it's frequent when I go take out the trash on Tuesdays, when I'm wheeling the bins out, I think of that moment. And it feels so hurtful to compare it to that, because he was a good man. He was a good man. I'm not comparing him. There's something about that moment that just felt so undignified, felt so unfair to him. Gosh, here you go. Like, it is literally the end of the road. And I just think of all the things that he wanted to do he didn't get to do, and the dreams that he talked about that never came to fruition, and the trips that he wanted to take that he never got to take. And that definitely resonates with me. That's why, where I talk about running out of time, and getting to do all the things you want to do in life. For me, I think that's why it just, it hit so hard.
Yeah. Okay. Vulnerable so that you can allow others to know what this is like. I will not keep you here. I do not keep anyone here at the end of the session, because it's not pleasant to go to this place. And this is part of what some people need in order to be able to refile it away in a part of the brain where we don't lose the knowledge or respect or love for that. And the missing never goes away, but we lower the reactivity around it so that we don't feel the need to such a great degree. Let me be realistic. Go to some of our negative coping skills, and everybody has them. Okay. So this is what tells me that this actually does fit, because when you said, here's what gets me every time, every Tuesday when I take out the trash, right? And I know that you're not comparing Fred to a piece of trash. I know you're not. What you're trying to say is that's how it felt. And how could such a big powerhouse of a man who was so proud be reduced to this moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about that emotion right there.
I think I have. None of us are getting out of this alive.
Right.
And so, there are many people out there have dealt with loss, and I have too. My father died a couple of years before Fred, 2 years before Fred. And so, as we age, it just feels like the bombs are dropping a little closer each time.
Yes.
With each passing year, the bombs get a little bit closer. And that is the reality of this stage in life, I guess. I feel like I'm not dealing well with aging. Some people do it gracefully. I feel like I am not. I'm not feeling like I'm embracing the changes. And again, these bombs dropping closer and closer. It's just, everyone is just, I don't know. I'm rambling, but yeah, I guess my point that I'm trying to make is I know there's plenty of people out there who have felt this kind of loss, and maybe this is the closest it's ever gotten.
Right. And this is why I think what you're doing is so valuable. What we're doing is so valuable, because there is an entire category, demographic is what you used before, of people who really could use some additional support, because we're realizing, holy shit, I cannot believe I'm this age.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said before, everyone's on the conveyor belt, but we don't really think about that until we start to get closer. So we're, again, this is a reality that everybody has to face, but many just turn away from it. And I understand why. For some that works, for some it doesn't. It just creates more anxiety or whatever the case may be in ways in which do not serve us. Okay, so I want you to do couple of deep cleansing breaths, and on the exhale, imagine everything that's distressing to you that we've talked about to come out of your body on the exhale. And I'll explain this process later, okay? So just do a couple of those. All we want to do, Nick, is I'm regulating your stress hormones. We do need those to go to this place. There's no way we're going to be able to talk about something so universal. This is one thing where we can categorically say it is absolutely universal. Mm-hmm. So now we just want to calm the central nervous system down just a little bit, doing all the prep work that we need to before we do the next part in the next podcast, where we actually do the bilateral stimulation. So if we need more, where would you say your stress rating is? That's the SUD scale, or subsequent units of distress scale, is right now. Do we need to do some more grounding or calming down work?
No, I'm okay. Is there a number scale? Is that a 1 to 7 again?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe 3.
Okay.
My legs aren't twitching anymore.
Okay.
And I've put down my fidgets.
Okay, good. So this is what a trained EMDR therapist will do. Continually check with you, because guys out there listening, guys and gals, this is your journey. You get to stop your therapist whenever you want to. Don't hand over all your power. You don't have to. Especially when we're talking about trauma-informed care and changing the brain chemistry going forward, trying to heal, if we need it, from a traumatic event. So, okay, now I know that you're at a 3. So now I know that we can proceed. So we've dipped our toes into that really difficult place. And now we're coming back. We're just practicing to make sure that is possible, because for some, there's dissociation that starts. There's too much flooding of emotion where anyway, it can get pretty bad, and that's not helpful. So, okay, I've established that we are okay to proceed. So now this is a little bit of an easier part, Nick. Now we go into, what belief do you want to replace that with? What cognition? And you can name several. I know that many therapists only use one. I think it's more helpful to use whatever you need to believe about that instance and that space that we are going to hardwire in, using the science behind this, on the next show. So name all the beliefs that would help you to feel better about the negative cognitions. And if you want me to, I'll read those again.
I don't know if I'm answering. I don't know. I'll answer, and you tell me if I'm on the right track here.
Yeah, just let yourself free associate. People all the time say, I am so sorry, I'm rambling, I am all over the place. That's how the psyche unloads.
I mean, I guess the reality is that I was there. I was there for my mom. I was there for Fred. And just being there, I'm sure, was enough for them. It comes as very little comfort, but I was there. So that's really the only thing I can think of, is that I just, I was there.
Okay. Very, very good. You're already on the right track. I was there. when what would many people do, and we're not this is not about judgment, because we understand why people run from this moment. It's too much. So you're absolutely right. I was there. I helped. I'm wondering if there's any more, and there may not be. I did what I could at the time. I did what I could with the tools that I had and the abilities that I had.
There's a little bit more guilt left in there, though, because I never went back. After that day, he lived for another 7 days, I believe, 6 or 7 days, but I never went back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is good. This is also what happens. More negative cognitions come out, and just let them, because we're doing extraction work even now.
So I felt bad about that too. I don't know if my mom needed me there or not. I don't know, again, how aware he was. He was pretty far along, and it just, to watch how a person dies in this country, it just seems unfair. You have so little control. You just, and I've always thought ever since then that when my time comes, I want to be in control. I make light of it, but I'm very serious when I tell my family. I tell everybody. I'm telling everybody that's listening. Yeah. When it's my time, I'm going on my terms. I have told people that I will gather up a little bag of narcotics or whatever I can get my hands on and drive out to my favorite nature spot and check. I'm out. It's been a good ride. Because what I watched, that, not to say that hospice is a wonderful thing. They do great things.
They're beautiful, caring, kind people. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But that to just waste away and just count the minutes until you finally die sucks. So
yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I never went back, and that's it. And I felt bad, and I wondered, how cognizant he was. Was he wondering why I never came back? Was he not even aware? I don't know. So that weighs on me a little bit. I don't think I answered your question. I'm pretty sure I took a hard left turn, but
because this is not a place we normally go to very much. It's just so brutal. And then we're going to come around, and we're not going to forget or lose the knowledge. We're not going to sugarcoat it and make death a happy thing. It is brutal. It is. And Nick, you're telling me absolute vulnerable, scary moments. That yes, these are the things that most people feel, even when they've done the best they could at the time. I can't think of very many instances where a client has said, this person that I love so much has passed, and I have not one single regret, even when they did amazing things that I can't even imagine. There's always some sort of regret. That doesn't mean that the person we lost felt that way. It just means that we're being honest about what's going on with us. And then we're going to use this technique to the best of our ability to move some of that reactivity through. So now we come to the part where you can either do it yourself or do it this way, where you give yourself the belief that you want. It's a goal. It's a goal that we're going to hardwire in using the science next time. But if you need help, then you can think about, what if a very, very dear friend came to you, someone that you love very much, and explain to them the exact situation, that I never went back? What would you say to comfort that friend?
Oh, I guess I would say I did the same thing. Mm-hmm. I guess I would say you're not alone. I did the same thing. I guess I would say I understand, because it's very painful. But I'm not good in these situations, though. I'm not good in these situations because I very frequently, when people are going through things on social media and stuff, I don't like to comment because I never know what to say. I always feel like whatever you say is just so trite
Yeah.
and pointless. I've had friends who have lost children, and I don't pipe up at all.
Yeah.
I don't send cards. I don't, and I feel terrible about that, but I just feel like no matter what I would say would be of zero comfort.
Right.
So, yeah.
You're bringing up a really good point. Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
No, so if somebody came to me, I don't know what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and this is how it looks. Those who are listening, this is how it looks. It takes time to figure out, going back and forth. Is it going to work this way to get some sort of reassuring or comforting message? And we're not comforting away the traumatic experience of death, nor would we ever try to come close to that around the death of a child. Yes, you're exactly right. So now I know as a therapist, okay, that's not going to work. Speaking to a friend. But what we do need to develop, and I'll help you, is some sort of reassuring message, even if you don't feel it now, some sort of realistic, reassuring message around, I never went back.
I have no idea.
Okay, so
I have no clue.
At this point, this is what we do. I will start throwing some things out just to see what path will sort of allow that to permeate a little bit, just a little bit. This is what we call resistance, and we know why, because we wish we could have done it differently. So I'm not minimizing in any way, shape, or form that piece right there. So let me just start saying some things. Let's see. I did not know how to go back to be able to handle all of that. I helped in ways that I could. I don't know if Fred was cognizant anyway. I would like to think that he knew that I cared. And I will choose to the best of my ability to focus on that. Remember, we're going to hardwire this in because they may not feel true at all right now. But which one seems, if any, a little bit like, okay, that one might be nearing the target.
I have to be honest, and no disrespect, I wasn't even really listening.
Okay, tell me more about that. That's important too. You checked out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit, and I wonder if it wasn't so much about Fred as it was my mom. And
okay.
And the absence that may have felt to her. Not that she ever put any pressure for me to be there. In fact, I think she probably even told me don't bother, but yeah, so try again.
Now do you see why we do this? Why I told you why we only picked one? Because you checked out to assess internally a little bit more of what's at the root. And it's about your mom. Feeling as though you didn't show up for your mom, even though she didn't need you to. She even said, don't bother. So now we need now we go the direction of, feeling like you didn't do enough for your mother. So would that positive cognition be something like, feeling that guilt for not showing up for my mom? Then we need just go inside and ask yourself, what sort of comforting message could I give that Nick at that time or now?
See, this is where this is why I said earlier, I feel like no matter what you say to somebody in a position like in a grief moment, it doesn't matter. Like right now, nothing sounds like it would make any sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. I want to go with you. I want to follow your steps. And I feel like this step, there's just something inside of me saying that's not going to work. There's
Okay.
not like, I don't know. I can't find something that would help me. I don't know.
I'm glad you're being honest, because this happens a lot. And if we paint it as though, oh gosh, everything goes so smoothly in EMDR, that's not reality. So what I do when we're hitting a block, there's resistance, I hold that one in my notes and in my head and document it in the computer as, okay, this is a piece to look at later. We do not want to gloss right on over resistance of some sort, because there could be, and we're going to explore this. What is the resistance to giving myself the ability to be off the hook there? So I'm going to set that over here for the moment, because something inside you doesn't want to forgive yourself for not asking mom more, or how could I have been more of a help to my mom? So I'm going to parcel that out for now. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This happens often, Nick. I need your total transparency and honesty, because otherwise, if a client just leaves and has this in their head, then nothing has been helped. We've opened up Pandora's box, and I never received the truth. So thank you for telling me this. Okay, so block around. Let me make a note of this. Not going. Let's just set that aside, picture that in the container.
Okay.
And we'll deal with that later, okay? So here's what we do have now. I just want you to pay attention to how these feel as I read them back, and then I'm going to ask you for another rating.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Just do a cleansing breath for me. We're regulating stress hormones. Okay. Positive cognitions. Hey, at least I was there.
Okay.
Just by being there. That was enough for them.
Okay.
I showed up for my mom and for Fred during a really difficult time. All right. So what is the validity of cognition? That just means it's a VOC. How true does all of that feel? On a scale of 1 to 7, 7 being, oh, it feels totally true. I don't need this anymore. Or 1 being, it doesn't feel true at all.
Totally true. 7.
It feels totally true. Okay.
Totally true. However, those things feel trivial.
Okay. I need to know more about that.
It just feels like, well, of course anybody would do that. That to me feels like the bare minimum.
Okay.
It doesn't, of course you're going to be there. Of course. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's just, good for you. You were there for your mother while her partner was dying. Like, so of course you're going to be there. What a piece of shit if you weren't. So it feels like the bare minimum.
Okay. So I would stop everything then right now and explore that, because I, along with many other people, would argue that there are several human beings who can't do that, or don't want to, or both. I know many children who are not adult children who simply can't deal with that. And I'm not judging anyone. Death is brutal. Death is rough, but especially when it's a stepdad and not a dad. So I just want to enter some of these things in, Nick, not to minimize the way that your brain works, but to challenge you on the fact that you hold yourself to some pretty high standards and expectations that may show up in your life today. That's the only reason why we do this. Like, it's nothing you do is ever good enough, when a lot of people couldn't even do what you did what we're explaining now.
You're picking at a nerve there. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And let me throw you another curveball, and it's probably another target. But I think too, underlying here is I was there. This is funny in a way. So my mom's partner, this was the third partner my poor mom went through a lot. Her second husband passed as well of Alzheimer's, and she had to take care of him.
Oh,
And
I
then,
didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Wow. She
And
went through a
then,
lot.
yeah, and then Fred came along at the latter part of her life, who's also my dad's. That's also my dad's name, Fred. So things pay attention, audience. My dad's name was Fred. Her final partner, my mom's final partner. Well, maybe she's still alive, so she may find another one. But that was also Fred. But to get back to it, I wasn't able to be there for my dad because he was in New Jersey in a veterans facility during COVID when it was on complete lockdown. So my dad died of COVID. And that you couldn't go in. That was at the very peak of it all. So yeah, there's that feeling of not being there for my dad. However, I was there for Fred, but just barely, I feel. So, and yeah, there's a lot that never feels good enough.
Okay. And so this is where I would absolutely stop. And let me remind our audience, that's why this is challenging trying to do it in a show. Because I would have started with the first and the worst with what Nick just brought up right there. But often this happens anyway. So I'm not sorry that this unfolded like this, Nick, because often when we're going through a certain target, we hit a block. That's why I take more than just one positive cognition, because I want to find out where are the blocks? Where are the blocks? And the block is that I didn't do enough. And then it usually leads to another one. That is the source of I believe, of all of this here. Well, death, of course, number one, and then dad not being able to be there at all.
Yeah, that was hurtful. That sucked.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you're 100% right. That is in and of itself, its own target that we would start with and then finish with. So, but right now, let me see if I need to bring the central nervous system back down. See, if I was in session, I'd let you let it out if the client would want that. Yeah. Some don't. That's when we would do accelerated resolution therapy. But with you, I know that would be good to unleash that faucet, and that's what I would do in session with you. Just do a check-in with me is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little raw at the moment. I feel it. Bad stuff. And
I know, isn't it hard?
Yeah. And I guess you know what I guess it's stuck in there more than you think. Mm-hmm. I am, and of course it's like commenting to your barber about your haircut before they're finished. I guess mm-hmm. It's hard for me to believe that this is all gonna come out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's a part of me that just believes that these experiences are just, it's life.
Right.
It's mm-hmm. just, these are mileposts that you hit, and some people have more mile markers than others, and that's just, it forms who you are, just like the bullying in school, just like my dad's death, all this stuff. These are just mileposts, and I don't know. Yes, talking about it is good, mm-hmm. but moving the emotions through, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I don't know that I keep going back to it. Am I going to fix something here, or is it just a matter of trying to understand and feel better?
All we're doing is the goal is to manage. difficult memories and to lower the reactivity around them. What you're saying is right, Nick. There's no way, especially given all that, well, number one, what we've gone through, but number two, what we've seen as television news reporters. You're 100% right. There's no way I'm going to tell you that, oh yeah, there's this great new therapy that's going to make you not feel anything when you get a shot of so-and-so who their body laying. No, I mean, there's no way to make that okay. And the suffering that we see in the world, there's no way to therapize the feelings that should go with that, which is, I don't even understand how this is possible. So you're right. That's not our goal, Nick. A therapist never fixes a person. A therapist teaches or administers different modalities or coping skills on how to lower reactivity, to remind the central nervous system that, yes, that sucked and it was awful, and I am managing okay. You're never losing the knowledge. The missing never goes away. We lower some of the negative reactivity around it.
Okay. I needed that reminder.
Yeah.
And you might have to remind me a couple of times about that because, I need
well, because who would buy into that? Who would buy into that? That's someone who is out of touch with reality and doesn't or hasn't been through a whole hell of a lot. There's no way that I am ever going to say that's not traumatic, or we can figure out how to make that a happy memory. That's bullshit. No, it's brutal. Death is brutal. Missing someone we love is awful. Yes. And there are scientific therapeutic techniques that exist that can help you reduce some of that pain. That's the best we got going for us here. There are some people who have been through either accelerated resolution therapy or EMDR and said that they feel relief in the part that they just feel as though it's not so much, it has not such a great ability to press us down. I can't think of a better way to explain it.
Yeah, it's just not as heavy. It's not, you lighten, not that it's a burden, but maybe you just lighten the mental load a little bit.
Exactly. Lighten the mental load. Okay. And for anyone listening, I would then encourage my client, or in this case, what I would have to do is encourage Nick to then go unpack this a little more with his own therapist, because you do want to be able to figure out what is it that sounds reasonable to me. And with EMDR, the goal is not to lose. You are not losing any of the memory, any of the hardship. We're simply lowering the amount of pain we continually feel year after year after year. The stuff that really gets us into the hole, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me just read what we do have now. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good.
I know. We can be good managing, meaning that we're managing really sad emotions, but we're still doing it. So, and then I'll take you back into your safety. Okay. So positive cognitions. I showed up. I was there. Doesn't really feel like enough, but I understand that this is a goal. We're going to use neuroscience next week. We're going to embed this body, mind, and spirit even more deeply, because right now all it does is not feel like enough. Right. Like I didn't do enough. Does that feel accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. All right. So then the final thing that a therapist gathers before we go on to the next phase and actually use either the paddles or the light bar or the moving dot for all of these things are eye movement, the eye movement, or which is bilateral stimulation, or the paddles, which also is BLS, bilateral stimulation. But before we do that, we need one more thing.
Okay.
What would be your safe or calm place? So to regulate the system completely at the end of a cycle of EMDR, we want to bring ourselves through guided imagery. The therapist will do it actually, to remind the central nervous system that it's safe, and it is nurtured. So the brain scans show that this is possible through guided imagery of a safe that we feel nurtured using the five senses. So suspend disbelief and just let me take you there. So what is your safe or calm place?
Right, like in my daily life right now, or as a maybe like a camp spot that I had once been to that was sublime.
I'm glad that you asked me that because I forgot to mention that it can be anything you want. It can be real, it can be imagined. It's like a dream that you're in charge of. There are no limitations.
Okay. And you want me to describe it to you?
Well, we're going to go through the five senses. So first
Okay.
of all, tell me what you see that is sublime to you. I like the word you used. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll pick this one. We're it's in Italy on Lake Maggiore, and it was a little lakeside cafe that we spent 5 weeks at. We stayed in this town for 5 weeks a couple of years ago. It was a dream trip,
Wow.
and I remember the sunset that night. I remember the way my wife smelled. She had a delicious perfume on. We had a great Aperol spritz in our hands.
Mm-hmm.
The flower boxes, they had these flower boxes right on the railing of the deck that we were sitting on. They were all full of flowers. And, the lake was gently lapping. It was a calm, still night. So it was, the light reflecting off the water, the clouds in the sky, nice pink, purple clouds. It was, I would blink my eyes or wiggle my nose to go back there any day.
This sounds beautiful.
It was great.
Absolutely beautiful. Now let's go to the scents. So you said my wife had on this delicious smelling perfume. Scents and olfactory, that's one of the most grounding in the moment senses that we can go after. So I'm thrilled that you said that. Describe it in great detail, even if it feels weird. Mm-hmm.
Well, she does this really cool thing that anytime we go on a big trip, she will buy a new perfume because she knows I have a bad memory. So she'll buy a new perfume for each big trip that we go on. So I have a scent to relate that memory
So cool.
to. It's cool, yeah. So I love that she does that.
Okay.
She may have read it somewhere. I don't know.
Wow, that's
I'm
amazing.
telling you, I swear she's could have written some of these self-help books.
I bet she's got an innate sense. Okay.
She does. So yeah, how did it smell? Like it smelled delicious. It smelled like summer. It smelled like love. It smelled like comfort. She has a good way about that. Yeah.
Okay, now we go on to, let me see. Okay, taste. You mentioned something, and remember, you're the author. So something soothing in that beautiful setting on Lake Maggiore, where what are you eating or drinking?
We had the Italians, they do the little snack plates that go along. We had an Aperol spritz, of course, which is delicious. The bubbles and the sparkling of the prosecco in the Aperol spritz is delicious. I can't exactly remember the foods, but little kind of puff pastry style appetizers, little marinara on it. I don't even remember, but I remember everything we ate was fantastic. So probably some pistachios in there, I think I remember. Yeah.
That's good. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now we go on to soothing sounds, and you can add or subtract anything you want.
Okay. Well, just the sound of people speaking Italian all around you was pretty neat. People laughing and having their own pleasant times was nice. The water, hearing the water on the shoreline is always soothing. I play some sound effects sometimes when I'm trying to go to sleep of water lapping. So that was great. And off in the distance, there was another lakeside restaurant that was a little bit more active, and you could hear the clank of the plates and stuff like that.
Okay, excellent. The last thing is physical feelings, and this doesn't mean emotions. So think of something so physically soothing, or think of several physically soothing moments on that trip. Like, are you in a hammock with the vineyards out on the distance, or,
It was a different day, but we were laying on the little beach at the lake. Yeah, the sun felt great. The temperature was perfect. A gentle breeze. Just, letting your body kind of relax.
Now I close it all up for now.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that all of the valves for the stress hormones are turned off. And it's going to feel unfinished, Nick, but that's not my concern right now. My concern is that we close it up and bookmark it, because this is a process. So will you just follow me through this?
Sure.
Okay. Because we don't have any tappers with us, my bilateral paddles, I just have clients tap themselves. It grounds the system in the here and now, guys. And that doesn't come from me. Look it up. It's just research and evidence-based. So just tap either one foot and then the other, or you can tap one knee and then the other. Just make sure that it's bilateral. So one side of the body, then the other. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now close your eyes. Okay. Do a deep cleansing breath in. And exhale, release, let it go. Now, I want your mind to float into this beautiful, safe place in Italy at Lake Maggiore, reminding yourself that you're giving yourself the gift of being there, because whether we are actually there or we suspend disbelief for a minute, all the cynicism, just throw it out the window and actually let our bodies believe that we're there, the positive effects on the brain are the same. So see that village as vividly as you can, with Rosalie right there next to you. You see all the cafes, the beautiful lake and the flower boxes. You're feeling all that stress leave your body. You see the lapping lake, the light reflecting off the water, and the indescribable pink and purple skies and sunsets. The soothing scents. My wife, and a new perfume, which she does every single big trip, buys a new scent. It brings me instantly back. It smells like summer. I feel her love. I know I'm not alone, and I feel her comfort. Taste. Well, those spritzers from Italy, the sparkling of the Prosecco and the spritz, all of that stuff that's native there, that brings me right back to that moment. The little puff pastries, I can feel it on my taste buds now. Little pistachios, appetizer plates. I hear all those soothing sounds, which really bring my entire system relief. My wife's laugh, people speaking Italian everywhere, them laughing and having their own happy moments. That soothing, nourishing sound of water lapping at the edge of the lake. And then before I have the client open the eyes, because there is some lightheadedness associated with EMDR, we just do a little bit of a here and now exercise. So bring yourself back into this present moment, listening to the sound of my voice and also listening to any sounds you hear in your home or where you are at in your studio. Restore yourself to normal rhythmic breathing. Really feel the weight of your body grounded in your seat at that moment. Kind of roll your shoulders if you need to. And then when you're ready, without rushing, you can open your eyes. Okay, so let's do a SUDS rating now. How does your body feel in terms of tension, anxiety, and stress? And don't feel pressured. I know Nick won't to answer in a way that you think I want. Answer in your way.
A 2, I think. I'm
Okay.
feeling pretty chill. My shoulders are a little tense, but I'm always like that. I'm always
Exactly
tense.
right. And I want our listeners to know, our audience to know, anybody can do this. This is a grounding technique. It's only one portion of EMDR, but the grounding technique works no matter what you're trying to do, whether you're going to therapy or not. Imagine a place using all the 5 senses and you're the creator, and then breathe and tap your way through it. Take a rating of how you feel before and how you feel at the end. It doesn't change a thing about our problems. It changes our way of feeling. We just feel lighter.
Whew, what a ride, Lori. What a ride.
I told you, buckle up.
Yeah.
And next one, that's when we actually use the science behind it with the bilateral stimulation. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we peeled back the curtain a little bit today, for sure. I truly hope this is helpful for people, whether it be you going through it while you're listening, whether you choose to reach out to someone to help you personally, or whether it's just helpful to understand what certain therapies look like. Keep in mind, we're just touching on one technique, one modality today, but it is all real. I'm not making any of this stuff up. So I hope it's helpful. I can see the benefits and the value in this, and I truly appreciate Lori for walking me through this experiment today. It's intriguing and it's helpful to identify certain things that I'll need to continue to work on.